This is Luton. We're so close now. We're close to the top, the summit. And this feels as if it's going to be the hardest part of our journey. Already our character is feeling tired. It's harder work pushing up. Losing our energy faster. Sapped out by the cold. We can't run anymore. Losing energy all the time. And this obviously is such a huge change from the warm desertness we've had up till now. This really is the endurance stage of our journey. But funnily, this section of real effort, real struggle, is something that I can actually, is comparable to something that I've done in my life. And a few years ago, I actually travelled to Nepal, and it was part of a charity trek, and we went high into the mountains. We did a lot of walking 12-13 miles a day, but it was very, very high altitude. And on the 5th day, we were taking the climb to our highest point. And as we pushed forward through the day, I started to get quite severe headaches. And these progressively got worse as the day went on, to the point where I actually had to stop walking. I couldn't breathe. And I was in quite a huge amount of pain. But we had no way of going back, because to go back would only mean that you would still have to go a considerable distance. And all we could do was keep going forward. So for several hours, and in fact the whole day, I had to just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. And it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, because I couldn't take more than about 4 or 5 paces without actually stopping to try and breathe. It was the strangest thing, and it was extremely hard. And so this section of the game is funnily something that, as I say, is I can have a kind of relationship for. And it did actually make me, whilst I was, particularly as we pushed through this, it did make me reminisce a little. And it did get harder, and it does get harder as we go through. But especially when I was walking, as we got towards the very, very top of the mountain. And some of the people I was walking with were saying, you know, don't come up to the last section, stay down here and we can come back and get you. But I'd been walking in such pain and in such a hard way for several hours. I was like, if I've come all this way, I'm going to get to the last bit. And I had someone making sure that I didn't fall down, because I was about to pass out at several sections as we were going up. But there's our goal, look. But I finally did it in the end, and it was absolutely worth it. Maybe that can be maybe that can be another video. I've said before that I don't like to talk too much about myself, but I wouldn't mind talking about that trip if people were interested to hear about it. One thing I love about this game though is the change of atmosphere, pace, mood, feeling. It affects the way you think about things. And these little reprieves where it takes you out of something for, just a few minutes. It was funny, just being here, like in this little shelter, you suddenly felt warm and safe again. Whereas when you're climbing and moving forward in the wind and the snow, you feel very exposed and in danger. The sound is something else that's just is so well done in this. Every element has its own little sound chord. And of course every game, everything has its own sound, but in this, I think because it's such a minimal game, therefore all those elements, come to the fore. And you become more acutely aware of all the small pieces of the game. Whereas when you have a game that's more complicated with so much going on, you maybe don't have as much opportunity to appreciate every small thing. But then again, that's why I try to do that in those games, because as I've said before, when you rush through things, you miss all of these things, and everything is always going to be considered very carefully when it comes to a game. Just like it would with a movie or anything like that. These things have been carefully considered, and therefore, you should take the time to appreciate these things. As we push on, still getting increasingly hard, more and more exhausted. And this really is an endurance test for us. I think our little guy here could do some walking poles, pull him up this last stage. Not to mention the fact that our demon friends are back. He's still got some energy, he's still got a little skip. These dragon things are amazing. You really do have a feeling of horror and fear. It maybe doesn't come across so well in the video, but when you're actually playing it, the sound of them is so immense, and because you're so small, their weight and presence is really terrifying. This little section does remind me of in Final Fantasy VII, where you walk endlessly through the snowfields, you can never find your way. Even more important now that we hide from these guys, seeing as we don't have the energy to really escape like we did before. And even when we pick up new energy from the and the plant forms, it's really not enough to give us anything. Maybe we can find some shelter up here. And we find a little temple. Maybe this even our last temple. What do we see here? But many pilgrims making their way before us. Many people making the same journey. There's something collective about that feeling of having walked the same trip, the same path as other people. If you've ever done that, if you've ever been on a long walk or trek or path, there is something about that, about having walked the same way as others. And if you've actually never done that in your life, if you've never taken the time to go and do a long walk somewhere, to, you know, in your country, a national park, or anywhere in your area, just to take an entire day and walk through a place. And also I would suggest to go by yourself, because when you have other people you often have other things to talk about and you can't really think and focus and clear your head. I think that would be my one suggestion actually to take away from this game, would be, you know, take some time, go and have a walk, have a journey somewhere, find somewhere that you know or that you've been to, which is very, very important, and take some time. I'll be having nightmares about these things, I swear. Hunting you in the night. God. I thought he was possibly going to see me then. But I really would like to see more games in this style. Things that allow you to create your own imagination, your own thoughts, and play it in your own way. And I might possibly revisit this at some stage, but I have got something else I want to do next for my playing on this style. But that'll be coming soon. Walking our path closer, ever closer to the top. Well, some good energy, it's just what we need. Replenish us. This is the last push now. This is the end. This is what everything so far has been leading up to. Can we muster enough energy to get us to where we've been leading all this time? Will we succeed? Will we fail? Does he have the will to reach his destination? Well, let's see how our journey will end.